Hello and go after. Welcome to Sportsball Razzifarai, a show that provides answers to viewer-supplied questions from a modern-day Celtic Norse shaman here in South Central Alaska. Be sure to tune in each Wednesday night when the shaman answers questions from viewers like you. Come on, let's hear what the shaman is answering this week. Someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them. Look at that.
Hello, go after, and welcome to Sportsball. Welcome to Questions Answered. Hopefully, this week is going well, and Wotan's Day has been such a blessing for you. I hope that you have gotten all the energy that you need. Today, we want to talk about the values and virtues and belief systems, all in the bottom of the well of the self. So, stay tuned. We're going to talk about how these different values and these different beliefs, of course, add emotional energy to that which we've already received and potentially could cause us to have some struggles with our mental space. So before we get started today, though, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed us on any one of the platforms. I want to also welcome Kick.com to those distribution platforms. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate all of the exposure. Hopefully we find the people who really need to hear these messages. I also want to give a huge shout out to all of my friends and family at New Reality. There it is. New Reality TV. NewRealityTV.com is a new streaming channel with a plethora of different perspectives that hopefully one will resonate with you and provide you with that spiritual guidance to get you back on what you feel is your spiritual journey. Remember, we're all different, and it takes different perspectives sometimes for us to truly see our path. As always, I also want to say, for those of you who might have a few extra coins jingling around in the old pocket and need to put them to good use, by all means, check out our donation site, pay.akolfethnar.com, where you can actually make a donation and know that all your donations go to supporting either the electronic platform, this, or the actual in-person visits that we make all around the country. So, by all means, feel free to donate as you feel compelled. Today, we're talking about the well of the self, and we're talking about those rocks that we've always talked about. Now, before we get too far involved, let's go back, and we're going to talk momentarily about the well of the self. What is this thing? Well, this is an image or a vision that my ancestors provided to me to help me to understand how we think. The well of the self is actually where emotions are involved in our thought process. Every experience we have through our sensory input, whatever that may be, right? All of those process through this process, and that is, we've spoken before, where the actual sensory input itself is actually converted into bioelectricity. That bioelectricity is then passed through our mood ring, or what I call mood ring. My ancestors refer to it as the emotional filter. But essentially, it is how we feel at the moment. This comes from our past, and so we're kind of pushing that forward. Now, remember also at the same time, as we're experiencing things coming in through our sensory input, our imagination is coming up from our memories, and it's feeding in. This is why sometimes what you see can be exaggerated or minimized depending on our imagination that's pulling from that memory. Okay, so that's going to alter everything. And remember, now we're not dealing with a picture. We're not dealing with a Polaroid running around and delivering it to all the locations. We're dealing with the energy. We've converted now our imagery, our sounds, our tastes, our smells, even our touch. We've converted it to bioelectricity. Bioelectricity is now what's passing across the nerve cells in our body on its way to ultimately reside in our memories. Now, along the way, once we come out of the mood ring, we're going to drop down, and my ancestors referred to this as the heart. This brain is referred to as the heart, or what we call the heart, but it's actually, according to my ancestors, it's one of our 5 brains. Now, when we get into this emotions, technically, for those of you who are scientifically inclined, we're actually dealing with the pituitary gland, which is located just below the hypothalamus in the actual brain. And this part of the brain is responsible for releasing hormones into the bloodstream based on what it sees and what it feels, right? So in my ancestors' visions that they provided me, we dropped this thing down into this thing called the well of the self. Now, the well of the self looks just like an old-time water well, all right? So deep, right? And about halfway down is the surface of the water. Now, this well is very, very important in our experience of reality, right? So we're going to bring in all of reality that we see. We're going to convert it. We're going to modify it a little bit based on our emotional filter. Then we're going to drop it down into this well of the self. Now, this signal is going to come down like a beam of light, right down into the water, where some of that's going to reflect a little bit, but most of it's just going to beam right down through the water like a flashlight, real high-powered beam, all the way down to the bottom of the well. Now, if we've got a lot going on in our brain, we're thinking about a lot of things, oh man, we're stressing out, man, just so many things going on in our brain. Not only are we going to make our aura very cloudy, hard to pass spiritual energy back and forth, but we're also going to make the water within this well of the self very murky. We're either going to agitate it a whole lot, which is then going to stir up the silt or all the dirt, and it's going to get very cloudy and hard to see through. So the beam of energy that we've created from the ring is coming down through this well, and it may not pass all the way through. Why? Because we've created so much murkiness, okay, that the light can't pass through, right? So it's going to bail. It's going to bounce out this way, right? So it's going to reflect off the water out the side of the well. Now, when it does that, it creates what we call a different biochemistry, but this biochemistry is going to be what I refer to as silt. And we'll see why here in a minute. But just remember that when we don't allow our authentic self to process in each of these experiences, technically, what we're doing is we're creating silt, all right? So it happens. It all the time happens, all right? It happens quite a bit. And we build up a lot of silt. Now, if, for example, we were able to get the signal all the way down, what we locate at the bottom of the well is a bunch of rocks. Now, these rocks are very important, and they're very beautifully colored. very unique pattern. They're layered, right? So it's not a single layer. It's actually, multiple, and it's uneven, and it's all over the place. Why? Because these are values that we've established over our lifetime. Now, those values start at a very young age when we're actually observing parents, uncles, aunts, older brothers and sisters, all of the people around us, anyone with whom we extend a level of authority to. So it could be anyone, teachers, you name it, whoever. When we extend that layer of authority to, that gives them the permission to deliver some of their values into our well. So if they say, and I'm using just a gross example here, but we'll say they like peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and it's just them, man. That is just what they want. Well, when we extend that level of authority, now they've placed it in our well, a rock that says, man, we really love peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Okay, that rock then becomes part of the tapestry or the mosaic at the bottom of our well. If, as an example, that energy stream comes down and it's kind of associated with, I don't know, what do I want to eat? It's going to direct that energy to that rock. And so we'll go, you know what sounds really good right now? Peanut butter and bananas. Now, will the rest of the rocks kind of rule that out and go, no, dude, no, wrong answer? Maybe. Hard to say, depending on what other rocks are hit. Now, many times people would think, it's a beam of light, it'll go straight down. Well, let's say these are shiny rocks. So when the beam of light comes down and it hits that first rock, chances are, if that rock surface allows it to, it's going to kind of ricochet off. And it's going to hit another rock. And then it'll bounce off that rock and hit another rock and another rock and another rock, all the way down to the bottom. At each time it impacts with one of these rocks, energy is passed to it. Energy for that thing. As our example goes, we have peanut butter and banana sandwiches. That peanut butter and banana sandwich is going to add energy to the energy stream. So energy is coming down from the mood ring, and it hits the first rock, and that rock sends energy to it. Now, rocks can have both a positive polarity and a negative polarity. So in some cases, the energy stream comes down and hits a rock and it's negative in polarity. It's going to discharge the energy stream just a little. So we're going to forget pieces of it. Okay? So we're going to remove that piece of the energy, and that's what happens as we bounce through these rocks to the bottom. Now, if, for example, we think about a particular thing that's coming through our mood ring down into the well of the self, and it hits a group of rocks, this rock, that rock, this rock, and repetitively it continues to do the same thing. It always comes down and it hits that first rock and bounces this way, and it always does the same thing. This becomes what we refer to as a belief system. It's not just a belief anymore. It's not just a virtue. It's not just a value. It's a whole system. And those whole systems then play a valuable role in assigning energy value. So in other words, within that belief system, if we were to have 4 positives and a negative, we'd take away 1 positive to equal out the negative, and we'd have 3 of those with positive charges still left, right? So a positive charge hits the bottom of the well. Now, what happens at the bottom of the well? Well, that's where the energy is actually converted. All of this energy now, that's all been bundled down to the single stream, is all converted into biochemistry. This is where the pituitary gland comes into play, and it's going to release hormones from the heart, which is where those ducts are. It's going to release certain hormones in a very, very detailed composition into the bloodstream. Now, the bloodstream has its own chemistry already, and it's pH balanced. So it's kind of already set a certain way. So if our pH balance is, okay, right? Gonna even keel. And then we're going to dump these new hormones into the system, now we're going to get even more energy that needs to be converted. And all of those energies are converted now into biochemistry. Biochemistry then floats up through the body, bubbles up to the top, where it winds up in what my ancestors referred to as the horn of feeling. In the horn of feeling, we have space for the biochemistry to come in, and as it's converted to energy, it's like a root beer being poured into a mug. We know that we pour a little root beer and you get a little foam, right? So you get a little bit of root beer, a lot of foam, right? And then we kind of have to wait for the foam to go down, and then we can pour in some more root beer, wait for that foam to go down, and pour in more root beer. That's kind of the same idea here with the horn of feeling. Except that we don't get a choice, really. We'll come back to this in a minute, caveat this, by saying we don't typically get a choice, and the biochemistry just dumps in. Now, having said that, we do have a space within this horn of feeling that my ancestors referred to as the head space. I call it the cognitive space. Why? Because this is a space where we can cognitively address the energy that's being converted, right? So it's that foam's coming up in the mug. And in typical fashion, for those of you who haven't tried it, feel free to grab yourself a root beer, pour it in a glass, and do the same thing. And lick the old finger, plop it in there, and lo and behold, we're going to see that foam that's coming up, and we stick our finger in there, and what happens? The foam kind of settles back down. Because of the salt and the other chemical composition of your fingers, in my case, I always lick my finger and stick it in there. It's my root beer. I'm going to drink it anyway. And poof, down goes this gaseous explosion of energy. That's what the cognitive space does within the horn of feeling. It allows us to now chunk down this expanding gas, chunk it down, and manage it so that it doesn't overflow the cup. Now, if it overflows the mug, or the horn in this case, what we find is that the rest of the brain that's surrounding the horn of feeling has no idea what to do with the energy. It just doesn't know. So it typically just fires off what it does. And most often than not, what you will see as far as a demonstrative value then is that we wind up with things like the shakes, or a rapid heart rate, or sweaty, or anxiety attacks, or panic attacks, even to the point where if there's enough energy out there, we can have blackouts, and we can cause some major damage. Why? Because the rest of the brain doesn't know how to handle this energy that's now flowed over the top of the horn. So it's very important for us to use that cognitive space to control the expanse of energy. Now, having said all of that, at the very bottom of the well, is the silt we've created. Remember when I said we kind of bounced out to the side because the water was too murky, we just couldn't see through it, so we bounced out the side and we made a biochemistry called silt. Well, this is where the silt is going to come into play, because as the cup fills with the biochemistry included both in whatever we get out of the bottom of the well, which may be almost moot, and the silt goes into the cup and then settles down to the bottom of the horn. Well, as time goes on, we're building up silt, and what we're doing is we're minimizing the amount of space that we can have for biochemistry and the expanding energy. So we're running out of space fast, which means we're going to kind of lose that cognitive space fairly quickly after we get biochemistry into this horn. Now, if, for example, we were to get so much foam, either because we have so much emotional energy being created, or it does it so quickly that we're unable to, remember the sticking the finger in the foam, we don't get a chance to do that, and it expands just really fast, and it takes over the cognitive space. This is when you're going to experience, or whoever experiences this is going to experience, where we can't think our way through it. Our brain just won't focus on getting to the task at hand. It's overwhelmed. That's what's going on, is we've lost our cognitive space. So how do we do that? Well, the primary way that we can recover our cognitive space is one of two ways. One is time. Using the physical construct of time, we can allow that expanding energy to move on to the next experience, of which may not be so exciting, and we just kind of let it simmer down. And sure enough, in enough time, we get our cognitive space back, and then we can start even further dissecting the energy and actually managing it actively. Alternatively, we can train ourselves to have muscle memory. And what I mean by that is, muscle memory, we're going to use this thing called affirmations. Now, affirmations are just that. They don't have to be this great big fancy thing or a huge recording of somebody singing a song. No. It's a word. It's a word that just triggers the brain to stop. And hold on. And that might be our signal. It could be a T. A T for timeout. Whoa. Right? It could be a horse that, whoa. Right? It could be anything. Anything that will trigger your brain to stop. Freeze. And that's what it will do, is the affirmation allows us then to lock up the brain so that no more energy is being expanded, right? And we don't have to worry about any more spillage. We've kind of arrested it. Granted, the energy may be bulging out of the top of the horn, right? But it's not spilling anymore, right? And now, with the affirmation, and down it goes, right? Taking a breath. Now they're kind of the same thing, because what they're essentially involving is time, right? Time to manage this, time to manage that, whatever. It helps us to kind of get things in motion. But our affirmations are typically one word, or maybe a particular bracelet, a particular ring. It could be some kind of totem. Anything that will trigger our brain to just freeze. And from there, we simply begin to chunk things down in a manageable order for us, that then we can then process normally. The upside to understanding this process, or maybe to being able to visualize it, I know for me, I don't know about everyone, but for me, this just made sense. I could see the process working. And so now I knew what steps I could take to manage that. Whether it was dealing with my authentic self, getting all the way down to the bottom of that well of self, where I could actually reduce the amount of silt in the horn, or whether it was actively managing it from the get and actually controlling the expanse of that energy. Once the energy is settled and everything goes, we're actually converting our biochemistry to that energy. So the biochemistry is going to evaporate, the energy is going to be replaced, and the energy is now going to be passed out of the horn of feeling to the next stop, which, as we know in the thought process, is the me gate. Me gate, another story, another show. But long story short is, we have the power and we have the authority to manage that process from beginning to end. We always maintain that, regardless how overwhelmed we may seem, regardless how overwhelming some emotional energies that we're receiving may seem. We have that power. We can do this. You can do this. So, and remember, one experience, one sliver of time, one present, does not dictate the future. You always have a choices at the me gate, and again, another show, but we'll talk about how we have the power at the me gate to just deny whatever energy is being made. We don't like that. We don't want that. So we say, I'm going to be happy. right? I'm going to be happy today. I'm going to be joyful. I'm going to be pleasant. It's going to be a wonderful day. Something negative happens. We have a choice right then. Boom. The choice is whether to accept this energy and allow it to bring down our spirits, or to change our perspective of the incident, of the event, and actually look at it differently, thereby creating a different energy coming in. So these are all methodologies, which ways that we can control our interpretation, our response to reality. It's the way we can manage it. And it's super important, because what's the outcome of all of managing our thought process is a better mental space. It's a healthier mental space, because now the imagination is going to be promoting positive. It's going to be promoting peace and love and joy and harmony and contentment. It's going to be promoting all the things that we really want to see, thereby altering all of the sensory input that's coming in, altering it just a little bit, making it put a more positive spin on it, dropping it into the well of the self. Because we have that good mental space, we have a clarity of water, the signal goes all the way down to the bottom, we can bounce it around our values, and we create biochemistry that is what we want, not what just happened. It's what we want, right? So we're in control of that process. Now, your rocks, as I mentioned in other shows, your rocks are completely manageable by you. So if someone says, as an example, or we'll use our same example, someone puts in the rock for the value of peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and you go, you know what? I can't do it. Nope. I can go into my own well, and I can take that value out. I can remove that value from my well. Any value I can remove. If I dictate that it has no more value, I can pull that rock out, and then when energy goes bouncing down, I don't have to worry about a peanut butter and banana sandwich coming up, because lo and behold, that value is no longer there. So, and we chip away at these rocks, kind of removing them as necessary, reshuffling them, making them larger, making them smaller. All of these things, we're going to actively manage them throughout our lifetime so that they accurately represent what we believe, right? What we believe, right? Now, it's not the other way around. Many people say, well, you've got that value, so that is what you believe. Nope. They're manageable, and that we believe it, but in many cases, we may have known facts, and we go, yeah, that's the way it is. And then a month later, we learn that, no, that's not the way it is. It's this other way. Okay, we just change. Same things with these values. These values, we may say, I have to be the perfect man, or I have to be the perfect woman, or I have to be whatever, right? And when we realize that that's just not who we are, we're comfortable, we're happy with ourselves, we're good. Thanks. When we can get to that point, we've managed those rocks. We've laid them out in such a way they're a beautiful mosaic on the floor. And any energy that comes down, any place throughout the well, as it hits those rocks, it now reflects what we want to believe. What we believe. But more important, or just as importantly, is what we want to believe. So this is where the idea of generational hate, that's where we can get rid of it. My father, generational hate. He didn't like particular people. But he wasn't going to damage my view of people. I wasn't accepting that reality. I'm sorry. That doesn't work. And those people who don't understand reality at all. Right? Humans are humans. Biological life forms are just biological life forms. They're just suitcases for spirits that are moving through the physical reality. That's it. Right? So it matters not what what paint job you got on, what gender you're wearing. None of that matters. What matters is our spirit is learning, growing, loving, harmonizing, and just essentially just experiencing a physical reality. And so that is the ultimate key. So today, as we've celebrated Wotan's Day and the quest for wisdom, we know that experiences and intellect come together to make wisdom because of the relational interfaces that happen. So by processing our energy, our received energy, in a way that is consistent with who we are, through our values, through our virtues, through our belief systems, to create the proper biochemistry, which is then interpreted or reconverted back into the proper energy to then be passed into our memories. Okay? And that's ultimately the goal. Is this allows us to build a better mental space, a comfortable joy, a peace, a love that is absolutely one of the keys to a survival. All right. So, Wotan's Day is almost done, so I hope you embrace the rest of Wotan's Day. Seek out those experiences, learn, grow, love, evolve. And while you're doing that, just think about how we think of ourselves. How we think sets the memories. It sets the data at which we draw upon. So consider strongly thinking about how we think. And most importantly, how we feel. Because how we feel is super, super, super important. All right? I hope you enjoy. I will see you again tomorrow when we will embrace the strength of Thor and really look at kind of the strength of mind. And when we set it, our New Year's resolutions won't fail this time. So we're going to set the strength of our mind. All right? So I hope you will join me tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock Alaska time. We will be here for Belly Sneak. And we will talk about the strength of Thor. In the meantime, enjoy your very evening, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow. Love and light, my friends.